Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of Think Business. Looking forward to talking with Travis Fritts. Travis, it's great to connect with you. Old Nation Brewing Company. You are the brewmaster and the co-founder. So it's great to connect with you. Appreciate our friend Joan Frank, B Frank Communications, introducing us. So thanks. So Travis, as a business coach, I like to start my interviews off talking about, where a recent stuck in business has been for you. Everybody's been evolving their businesses and things change so quickly. So where's a recent stuck and how'd you get unstuck?
So I think the biggest stuck recently, I think for most manufacturers, in one way or another, was the pandemic, and then sort of the cultural ripples that came from the pandemic in terms of consumer taste and behavior. And I think that's particularly prominent in the alcohol industry, which of course I exist in. So really cultural shifts have been the problem that we have been facing, at least theoretically, in the brewery. And the way that we've sort of met that challenge is to think about is honestly to think less hard about what particular shifts there might be in culture or amongst folks who might be ready to drink craft beer, and think more about commonalities between folks and just what sort of back to basic fundamental brewers have been doing for the last 400 or 500 years, and that has worked very, very well for us. Just go attack.
I love that, back to basics, right? Mm-hmm. So wait, I want to expand on that for a second, because as an owner of a business, you're talking about going back to basics. You're talking about there were cultural shifts in a post-pandemic world, and as you put it, you're gonna think less hard, right?
Yeah.
And so, which is great, because sometimes I think people overthink things, and it takes a lot to get to simple, right? And simple, and so what is one thing that you do that somebody else can do to get back to simple and think less and kind of really tap into their gut of what the right one next move is? One thing.
Well, that's a big question, of course. I think that self-awareness is paramount, and I think in that self-awareness, the most important thing for me has been to not think about, again, this big wide world with all these problems, but think about what are the skills that I have. What is the experience that I have? And, casting that out to my entire team, what are the skills that we possess, and how can we best sort of exploit those skills in order to reach the goal that we need to, regardless of what else is going on. And that's a difficult thing to do, is to calm yourself, to calm everyone else, and to say, look, there is strength here, and that strength is absolutely up to the task of the challenge.
I love it. That's great. That's great feedback. So I work with, as a business coach, I work with solopreneurs to Fortune companies and everything in between. I work with people who are successful and stuck, and I get them unstuck. And what I love talking about all types of business people is nothing is ever a straight line. But I think your career is kind of a cool career that people say, God, I would love to be able to be a brewmaster, and monetize that and do that. It just, I just think that a lot of people really like the energy around it, right? I think of like Cheers and that type of environment. And so tell us a little bit of your story.
Well, my story in brewing started when I was about 21 years old. I had run out of money for college, but had owned my own demolition company where we did commercial demolition. So we would go into stores in the mall essentially and demolish them and then rebuild stud walls, whatever. It was pretty basic stuff, but it made us pretty good money, allowed us to work at night and go to school during the day. So in that kind of 18 to 20 year range. But I was studying to be a teacher. It wasn't going to be feasible for me to pay for that entire tuition because the student teaching requirements had increased and blah, blah, blah. So I had a moment when I was about 20 or 21 years old. I think a lot of people do, where I thought, screw it. Let me see if I can do something wild. And I took, all of my money and some of my parents that was devoted to college, and transferred to the Technical University in Berlin as a food science student. As a 6'2" football player, the Brewing School found me right away within the food science program and essentially said, are you used to manual labor? And I said yes. By the way, brewing in Germany is not that cool. Really,
right. They looked at you and said, "You look like you enjoy a beer."
Well, I mean, I think they looked at me and said, "You look like you can lift kegs all day. Can you do that?"
Yeah.
And I said, "I think so." And they said, "Well, there are scholarships available if you'd like." And I said, "Okay, I would." And then got involved in brewing. And from there, I'm from a small Midwestern town, like a lot of folks are. And, back then still, I think the idea was if you're lucky enough to get a path, then you should, beat that path until it's concrete,
Yeah. So I want to touch on this for a second. I want to kind of do a mini life course, right? Because I have this business, my coaching business. I also have a coaching business called Launch 3, which is only for 18 to 26-year-olds.
Sure.
And so, because I believe that they're discouraged and they're coming out of college, not sure what they want to do and needing skill sets and things of that nature. And so when you talk about you were 21 years old, trying to figure it out, right? I want to kind of get into that 18-year-old head for a minute, 20-some-year-old head. What were the three things that got you grounded to figure out where you wanted to begin the path?
I don't know how inspiring I can be in the context of this question, but
I don't care about inspiring. Yeah. I don't care about so much inspiring. I care about the thought process. What were the three things that you were walking yourself through to make that decision? That's what I care about. Someone may or may not find it inspiring. I think they will. But what was the three steps that kind of got you to go to Berlin? Right.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think necessity was one, right? Now I'm 21. The program is, you graduate college or your trade apprenticeship when you're 22, and then you have children, purchase a house and so on. So I was already, in the 11th hour, I felt like. And so there was, a necessity, fatalism, I think for me was big. I knew that, in order to get what I wanted, which was a decent career with a decent, so I could provide decently for my family, I would have to sacrifice. I never had any questions about that. And I knew, I guess the third thing would be that I had built up by that time a decent ability to assess my own capability within risk, and what I could do, and within different kind of demanding or risky situations, and those were the most helpful things for me. But a lot of those were baked in by then.
Yeah, got it. All right, good. Those are good things. I think those, I always like to try to get into the psyche of where you were, because we want to match where somebody else is right now, so that can help them make that next step. All right. So I want to go back to something you talked about, cultural shifts in a post-pandemic world. It feels even funny saying that right now, because it feels like it's so far, but you had kind of mentioned that. And so how did your business evolve in a post-pandemic world? What were the cultural shifts that forced you to kind of get back to simple? What basics did you keep, and where did you evolve?
Well, when the on that March 16th or whatever day it was, when we knew that 96% of our business doesn't happen here within the restaurant or pub at the facility. Most of that is us shipping beer out to folks. And the uncertainty of, losing, certainly without question, for 30 to 40% of our business, which was what we call on-premise sales. So in bars or restaurants, in a glass that you drink while you're there. Immediately we lose those for an unspecified amount of time. We don't know if the difference is going to be made up in volume of product at the store shelves. That is to say, people will buy it in cans if they can't buy it at the restaurant or bar. We didn't know any of that. And because there was so much certainty, the thought to and the planning to go right back to basics was immediate. That we will not be. I think the point was, and this is an inelegant way to say it, but it's what we talked about. The point is we cannot freak out and we cannot be seen to be freaking out. That most people will be doing that. They'll be kind of grasping at straws and what can we do and what little thing can we keep ourselves busy with as we're, in so much sort of anxiety about the pandemic, but rather to say, again, okay, what are we good at, right? We're good at what we're already doing and we're already successful at. There are some other things that we're good at that, we haven't been successful at, but maybe now's the time to kind of fiddle around and try it while it looks like we have some space because we lose this portion of our business. And so that's exactly where we went. We went back to basics that we knew we were good at that hadn't shown folks in this company. And then back to the basics of what it was that we were doing with stuff that already was working. Yeah,
I love it. All right. So let's talk about now you get back to foundation, your business, you've adjusted things you want to adjust. Now it's 2024. How 3 ways you're scaling your business, 3 ways you're scaling and growing your business today.
One of the ways that we're scaling the business is by targeted, and scale then is a relative term. These are all kind of higher hanging fruit. So we're not getting as much juice per squeeze here necessarily, but to focus our resources into markets that we know we have a foothold in, and kind of letting go of the ones that we are, again, it's this juice to squeeze ratio that we talk about a lot internally. It's going to be too much squeeze for too little juice. So making sure that the partners with whom we're working are solid and sort of striving toward the same goal is 80% of what we've done, frankly, to kind of ensure a healthy path forward post-pandemic.
Yeah, good. Number 2?
I would say number 2 then would be, we're doing less of this, right? But it is, and I hate to kind of put it in business speak, but it is kind of right faces, right places, right? We have an inordinate amount of talent, individual talent here in the company. And we find every day that there are folks with hidden skills or talents that we're not using, that they would love to use these talents to kind of, help the team. And so there's a lot of that with administration, with safety and regulation, with stuff that's not particularly sexy, but these folks can absolutely grind it out and get it done. So that I would say is number 2. And that has been, again, that has increased our juice to squeeze ratio.
Yeah, totally.
And, when we talk about anything else that's happening, that really has been in numbers and research. So we've been utilizing you spent money during the pandemic on getting as much data as possible, really making it a practice to analyze that data, not in moments of need, but at all times, and talk about it and really have open conversations about why are people drinking, for example, more lager in Chicago than they are in Grand Rapids and Detroit. And does that matter? And can we capitalize on that? These are things that we can see now that we could only get anecdotally before, that absolutely have helped us grow.
It's great. Yeah. Numbers and research and data, if you don't bring data to the meeting, people just use their own opinions. So It's so important to have the data, extract the data, and know what data applies to you and how you can use it to grow your business. No, I love that.
There's no doubt. And there's also reading your folks' opinions before the data is available to you. Right.
Yeah.
And saying, you know what, I think you're probably right. Let's see whether or not the data proves or disproves that. I'm a microbiologist and a biochemist. Right.
Yeah.
So everything is a hypothesis until it's proven. And then it still is kind of a hypothesis. So that's how we approach all these things.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. All right. So talk to me about, talk to the Think community about a mentor that you've had that helped you along the way. Right. We all are looking for people that can make our journey a little bit easier. Who have been one or some of yours?
Man, if you'll let me do 2 or 3, there's probably a couple dozen, honestly.
Yeah.
And I don't want to shortchange, but I'll be brief.
Yeah.
So my current partner, Rick Gersey, is 100% the mentor that I would point to in my life generally. Who he was about my age now when I met him 20 years ago. And we have been through every single war, and he has, I couldn't ask for a better partner, and I couldn't ask for someone who knows more in their gut about business and how to do business and about risk tolerance. So it would be Rick, and I have 100 other brewers that help me as a tradesman as well.
That's great. And what was the biggest lesson you learned about yourself with him?
With Rick?
Yeah.
that I needed to grow up and stop being an oppositional, defiant tradesman, that I wasn't a poor country kid anymore. I could be trusted to make decisions and do reasonable things and have good outcomes. I mean, really.
Yeah. I was talking to a client the other day who was talking to somebody in their business, and one of the things they said was, you've gone from blue collar to white collar, and so now there's just, it's a mind shift, and the way that you want to do things for the business in today's world.
It is. I think there's some of that. I think it's good to have I think part of our success is that I still keep a pretty deep blue collar perspective about white collar issues. And for me, that's the difference between what's practical and what's theory, right?
Yeah.
If you don't know how hard it is to get something done, then all your ideas are good, right?
Yeah.
If you do, then it's different.
Right. I was going to say, I have another client who always talks about, who is in a very white collar world, but one of the things he talks about is how to get in a blue collar mindset, where how he grew up, because you got to get back to what you said. You got to get back to the basics. Practical. And don't overthink things. Right. And sometimes, too much data can make you overthink, and too much thinking and thinking you're too smart can actually lead you in the wrong direction.
It always almost does, I think. That's hubris, right? They have huge legends that exist for thousands of years about it, right? And I think that if I may, the idea of overthinking is one that's confronted in German trade, particularly German, but I think American too. They just have a word for it in Germany. So in your trade education, whether you're an engineer or a plumber or whatever, there's this idea that they call Schlimmbesserung, which is negative improvement. And that means there's a golden moment where your capability has absolutely been encapsulated in the product that you're making, and further improvement will make it worse, right?
Yeah, totally.
And that goes with ideas, it goes with discussions, it goes with an actual product or development. So I wanted to add that.
Look at Coca-Cola. Remember when they tried to change the recipe and they had to rewind it? Yeah. So now it's Coke. I don't even know if it is called still Coke Classic. Maybe it is, but same thing. They tried to mess with something that was already perfect. Yeah.
Right. Why? So something can check a box. It's good.
Right. Yeah. No, totally. I love, thanks for sharing that. All right. Let's do a quick speed round. A book that's had a big impact on you, or a TED Talk. Whenever.
I would say the book that's had the biggest, sounds so cheesy in 2024, but it was great in, 1996. The book that's had the biggest impact on me in my life is definitely Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. Yeah. I know that Stoic philosophy has been co-opted now, but back then it wasn't, and it was enlightening to me.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
It's going to be tough to pick the best one. I'll give you one, though. Okay. It's not what it's worth. It's what someone will pay for it.
All right. That's true. That's true. Finish this sentence. One thing everybody can do to get back to basics is?
One thing everybody can do to get back to basics is sit down, turn off your screen, and look at a tree at sunset until the sun sets.
That's a
Just
good one.
Be at peace, man. It'll happen naturally if you let it.
Yeah. Amen to that. Amen to that. Travis, this is great. I enjoyed our talk. Tell everybody who your ideal clients are, where they can connect with you, learn more about you, get your product, et cetera, et cetera.
My ideal clients are anybody, I'll be completely frank, and I think they'll enjoy this. Anybody with a liquor license who, would like to sell high margin, high revenue beer. They can find us at oldnationbrewing.com, most simply, or any social media with the Old Nation tag.
That's great. Great. And the website is great. Goes into a lot of detail about you, where to find you, all about it. It's great.
Absolutely.
Think community. I always love this podcast. I get to work with people that are in alignment with my mission to help you get unstuck. And Travis, you shared a ton of great stuff. I always like to extract one thing from my talks, and that is connect with nature. Whatever you're doing, there's a great line, hurry, don't rush. Yes. And I think a lot of people rush, and there's a lot of the things we talked about today can happen a little bit more naturally when you stop rushing and you slow down and you sit down and you look at a tree and sunsets, etc.
Yeah.
So think community, think about slowing down. You can reach me at johndwoskin.com. You can reach Travis at oldnationbrewing.com. Travis, this is great. Any last thoughts?
I'll echo your last statement with sort of great relish and force, man. Absolutely. Let me say this. There's a ton of different ways to meditate, whether it's repetitive motion, repetitive thought, repetitive speech, just watching something, right? You don't have to be a hippie to meditate. It's crushingly important, I think.
It's the first thing I do every morning when I wake up.
Same.
And it's great.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for bringing that in. Travis, thanks so much. Think community, thanks so much. Thanks, everybody. Travis, stay on for a bit.
Thank you very much.